It's a celebration of stories and storytelling.
A fisherwoman passed by a grand palace calling out,
"Fish! Lovely fish! Come by my fish!"
It's something that Wonderful Beast in a way has been working up to for a long time. Wonderful Beast is a theatre company that bases all its work on myth and fairy tale and legends and folk tales, and it's sort of come to a point where it wants to do more than just one-off shows or do a tour, but actually bring people together. We've got children in it and old people in it, local people, and very, extraordinary professional talent in it. I believe absolutely passionately in working with everyone. Because we are doing Storm of Stories in Aldeburgh, which is now the home of Wonderful Beast, the obvious thing to do was to make the theme of the whole 4-day event connected to the sea. We are launching Storm of Stories with Sea Tongue.
Crushing, gushing, devastating shipwrecks. Furious, fuming, ferocious waves, spitting seaweed.
Sea Tongue comes from a series of workshops in Old Valley School in Leiston on a local tale about the erosion of the coast.
She finishes a line which says, "I am surrounded by sounds." Ting, nice, loud and clear.
And they then created their own poems, their own text, and helped by the creative team, their own dance and so on, and presented their version of this tale.
We are the fishermen. What happened last night?
Sky turned grey, then black, then purple, like a painter mixing his paint.
And also Aldeburgh Primary School are involved, and they are presenting Orlando, the Marmalade Cat Goes to the Seaside.
We are going to tell you a story about Orlando, the Marmalade Cat. We are on our way to Aldeburgh on Sea.
And on Saturday there's going to be a pop-up writing clinic run by well-known writer Caroline Moorhead and Claude Haas.
I'm interested when you mentioned this free writing, things like that, but what form does it take? Is it like fiction or autobiography?
I suppose it depends on how you think, because if you think in prose then it becomes fiction. But I find that I sometimes I think almost in the poetics.
And then there's Wonderful Beast, which always bases its work on these marvellous universal tales. But because we're actors and musicians, we dramatise them.
Suddenly, a column of smoke began to pour out, covering the ground and the sea and moving higher and higher up into the sky until it reached the clouds. The fishermen peered up into the sky as the smoke turned into a black fog and formed the shape of a huge genie, his head reaching to the sky and his feet planted on the sand.
I became angry, enraged, vengeful. I swore an oath, screaming it out for the whole world to hear. Whoever releases me from this prison, I will kill.
Yes, we work with children, but the company started because it wanted to bring these stories to adults who have either forgotten them or think they're just for children and so on. And yet these stories are incredibly powerful, and you just take them on the level that you're at within your age, whether you're 5 or 50.
Here and there, he saw the dark patches where they had flung down their sealskins. Have you anything as bonny as that in the sea? He asked her, kneeling down beside her. And she said, so faintly that he could scarcely hear her say, no. I know not what there is in the sea, he said, but there is nothing on land as bonny as you.
It's wonderful storytelling. It was wonderful for all age groups. We loved it.
It's a real plus, I think, to have something like this where the importance of storytelling is maintained in the community.
We don't go to the theatre a lot, living in North Norfolk. There's not a lot there, but we happened to be in Aldeburgh this weekend and we saw that it was on and it came highly recommended.
After Strange Fish by Wonderful Beast is something called Trawling for Tales in the Aldeburgh Bookshop, where people are coming together to tell everybody about their favourite stories growing up and reading extracts from them.
Come over and hear and listen to a story, said the aunt, when the bachelor had looked twice at her and once at the communication cord.
But when I am stronger and can choose what I'm to do, oh Leary, I'll go round at night and light the lamps with you.
On the fire, full of lovely baked beans. Help, thought Hubbub. I'd quite forgotten we came to catch Leatherleg.
There you are, said Bill. There's nothing this pudding enjoys more than offering slices of himself to strangers. I'm going to read that again because it struck me as forcibly now as it did when I was 6.
You get somebody like Abbé Patrick's from France.
That when desire arises between a man and a woman, it's still often the man that has to do the first step. Although we all know that the man cannot do a thing if woman has not tipped him the wink.
I whisper to you the secret of my heart.
He's coming and bringing storytelling as an art form to Storm of Stories.
It's the guardian of the celestial nymph. His body sheathed with golden armor, black lacquer, shining face, huge body, great chains, huge mouth, pouring hands. Black lacquer, shining face, huge body, great chains.
But he absolutely goes back to those people in the Marrakesh market or wherever they were telling stories. He's out of that tradition.
She admires the man. She wonders where the seal has gone. But she can't get her eyes off the man. She smiles, and her smiles go directly from her mouth to her eyes, to her heart. On earth, you'll always stay with me. There are fires beneath the sea.
Kids were in the audience, adults were in the audience, they were all having a great time. It was storytelling to music as well, which is great because it adds a whole new dimension to the whole thing.
Completely different to what I've ever seen before.
And do you go to the theatre a lot?
As much as I can, but where I live there's not much occasion to go to the theatre.
Last night we had the primary school, then we had the elder children, stories about that delved into sort of childhood psyche, and then we went more adult this afternoon, deeper and darker. And then tonight, really coming to storytelling, coming to its adulthood, but yet referring back to all those earlier stories. So it's been an extraordinary 24 hours.
There's the Rainbow Fish and the Littlest Rock being presented at Leiston Library for very young children with Zoe Palmer, who's a singer and storyteller, and Jack Ross, who's a guitarist, and they are going to enchant the children and their families with these stories.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Lots of fishes in the sea. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Have a shiny scale from me.
Memories of Mermaids at the Pump House on Sunday afternoon, which is presented and performed by Kerry McLean from Hackney. And she's bringing a wonderful story set in the Caribbean about a mermaid.
Buster, how could you? But it's too late. He's broken the spell. Water Mama's legs begin to glow silver.
At Storm of Stories, it's been really fantastic to see and hear loads of stories being told in really different ways, actually. And I'm a musician, and hearing the music and seeing how that's interacted with the words and the stories has been really a real success and something that I'd love to hear more of.
I'm just interested in how you tell stories, how people tell stories, and I don't think there's one way to do it. Like Tallulah's and Hermione's installation, they're telling stories through words, through text, all sorts of different ways.
The project is called Messages from the Marshes, and we started by coming up to the pump house and sitting on the deck that's just behind us and looking out over the marshes, and wanted the marshes to obviously be the centre point of the whole installation. So when you go into the building, you're surrounded by photography and text and sound. People give us scraps of text. We wanted them to write their own messages to the marshes, so they give us their words and put them up on the wall or into bottles or recorded onto tapes. The most important thing to us is to create an atmosphere where people don't feel intimidated and actually feel part of the installation. So them coming into the space has immediately affected the outcome of what will happen in that room.
It's a really different type of storytelling.
Every other person that walks into that room adds another word to the story.
We're really looking forward to Life Stories on Sunday afternoon, which is a golden opportunity to hear local people reminiscing about life and times in Aldeburgh.
Oh, my Johnny was a handsome sailor lad, and I lost him in the gales of '94.
They built me a boat. They'd had a boat built for me to go straight into. So I went from school into a boat, and I learned a little bit about it, but I was in the boat the next day on my own and trawling.
As a sailor lad on a sailing lugger, when I was out to sea.
And some women, you know, when we were children, they used to bring their, if they hadn't got gardens or anything, they'd bring their washing on the beach and lay them in squares and put stones on the corners so they didn't blow away. We wouldn't dare do that now, would you really? God, they wouldn't be left on the beach, would they?
So anyway, he came home and sat down to tea. He said, well, I've got to go out at 6, so I've got to go to see Cooper at the fish and chip shop. Oh, why was that? He said, I bought it. Oh.
You can have stories from the Arabian Nights, you can have Greek myths, you can have Russian stories, as we have done, all kinds of stories from all over the world, but what we have here are people's life stories which are equally fascinating and interesting.
I can remember that the old boys used to roll their fags up in the breaks, set them along the wall with red matches, and as they went by they'd grab the fag and the match, and they couldn't stop. They had to keep on the go if they were going to make their money.
Over the ocean, my body lies over the sea. My body lies over the ocean. Oh, bring back my body to me.
Aldeburgh has lots of wonderful festivals, brilliant international festivals, but a lot of people, especially sort of local people brought up, born and bred here, they don't think it's for them. So there is a real mixture of professional, amateur, children, old people, but they're all talented. Sort of bit by bit, building trust, really, with people who I think are very important and who get left out. Everyone who don't feel the arts are for them.
Bring back my body to me, bring back